Today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome and 8 ways to deal with it before it hinders your success. Take a minute now, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We do videos all the time on really pertinent topics on mental health, self-development, and really ways to be, truly happy in your life. So imposter syndrome. First question, what is imposter syndrome? Now, everyone at some point in their lives feels a tinge of imposter syndrome, but people that feel it, really quite commonly always kind of feel like they are, scared they're going to be found out, or they're lucky that no one knows, fill in the blank, that they don't have these skills or these talents. Now, imposter syndrome is found more commonly in the workplace, but you can find it in any area of your life, whether it's activities, sports, friendships, family. But today we're going to be really talking about workplace environment. And again, the first kind of thing to look for is, do I often feel like I shouldn't be here? Do I often feel like that I don't measure up, that I'm not good enough? That is often something with imposter syndrome people feel like they have, like they feel like someone's going to find out about me. And it's a really painful way to live. So how to tell if you have imposter syndrome? Because a lot of people ask me that. A lot of clients say like, Carrie, I don't know. I often feel that way, what you're describing, but what are some things that I can kind of check off a list of to help me know if I have imposter syndrome? And so I went through and really sat down and wrote down some of the top ones that clients have mentioned to me. So you feel you got lucky when you do, for example, a project or a presentation. You feel like the sense of, I got lucky, when you actually prepared very hard and did, really quite good work. So this level of feeling like I got lucky, or this was just a one-time thing, is disproportionate actually to the level of work that you put into it. Number 2, you apologize frequently. We find this not only in people pleasers, for example, but of people that have imposter syndrome. They often apologize for things that are not their fault, or for things that they shouldn't be apologizing for. Number 3, it's hard to accept praise. And a lot of people really struggle with this. We get a compliment, we kind of brush it off, but people that struggle with imposter syndrome find it really, really hard to accept praise, and with really anything about themselves, and they brush it off, they feel embarrassed, they really don't like it. Number 4, you hold yourself to incredibly high standards. This will get in a moment to kind of the perfectionist in you, but these high standards that you hold yourself, if you really look at them factually, are standards that you cannot reach. So you have these high standards for everything that you're engaging in, but unfortunately standards that you really can't reach. And then when you come up short, you get down on yourself. The next one, you find the fear of failure paralyzing. People with imposter syndrome feel like, first of all, failure is something that is more commonplace. For example, making a mistake is failure. For a perfectionistic person, making a mistake feels like failure, when for most people, making a mistake is commonplace. It's normal. It's how we learn. But this feeling of failure being so daunting, being so huge and looming, and is something that they think about quite often, is another factor. Convinced that you're not enough. Now, again, some of these people, all kinds of people will feel these things, but people with imposter syndrome feel again and again that they aren't measuring up, that they aren't enough. They feel like there is something inherently wrong or lacking inside themselves. And lastly, you have a tendency to turn down opportunities for growth and success. And the reason why is that people that really feel this nagging sense of imposter syndrome really feel like they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to show up. They're going to fail. Whatever it is going to happen to them. And so what's really critically important about imposter syndrome is that it keeps you from really stepping out, from really taking the next action steps in your career, in your family life, and whatever facet of your life it is. It keeps you small and stuck because you're too scared to move forward. So really, let's talk a minute about the impact of imposter syndrome, because these impacts aren't small. We see elevated or raised levels of depression and anxiety, mental health concerns for people that are really plagued with this. We see impaired job performance, decreased decrease job performance. And you can imagine if you're always wondering what's going to happen that's bad, or I'm going to be found out, or something like that, you can imagine the intense pressure and stress that you are living under. And this will eventually cause health and mental health concerns. And then, of course, we have decreased job satisfaction. I mean, who can really truly feel joyful or passionate about their work if they're feeling fear of this level? It's very, very hard. And then, of course, that often comes with burnout, because if we're constantly intensely stressed and afraid, we're going to burn out in our work very, very quickly. So I really want to talk today about 8 tips for people. If you're listening to this and you identify with some of this information, and you've already kind of had a question mark around imposter syndrome, and now you're saying to yourself, yes, I feel like I might have this. Here are 8 things that you can engage in, kind of 8 tips for how to work with imposter syndrome. So number 1, know you're not alone. I did some research a couple days ago around this, and I think something, drastically high, like 87% of people feel this at some times. Now, people with imposter syndrome, of course, feel it at a much higher level and with a much higher frequency, but you are not alone. This is not something weird about you or wrong about you. This is natural and understandable. But again, we want to work with it because we want you to be happier. We want you to enjoy your job. We want you to go after, successful opportunities and things like that. So you're not alone, and it's something that we need to work on. Getting back to that perfectionistic part, you have to begin to let go even just a little bit of the perfectionist in you, because that perfectionist, those standards I was talking about are so high that you set yourself up for failure. With standards like that are not realistic, you can't win. And so there are other videos on this channel around perfectionism. I'll link one here. Begin to work on that inner perfectionistic part of you, because it's really causing you to not be able to ever reach the bar. And if you can't ever reach the bar, then you're never going to feel like things are good enough, or that you're happy enough, or that things went well enough. So this is really important. Number 3, negative self-talk. Now, there are other videos, and I'll link this one here as well, around this kind of inner critic that we have. This inner critic, this voice inside our heads that's always telling us that was, a bad thing to say, or a bad choice, or you look stupid, or they're thinking that you're fill in the blank. I mean, this voice will go on, and you really have to begin to work with identifying your inner critical voice. If you don't, this voice is going to run rampant in your head. It's going to really be dictating your behaviors, your choices, your actions, and it's going to make sure that you stay small. So we don't need to be frightened of the inner critical voice, but you do need to begin to work with it. And again, I'll link a video here so you can do that. An important thing for people to do is to really, if you really get into kind of spreadsheets or taking notes or habit trackers, things like that, is really like daily or weekly, really notating and tracking your performance. It can be really helpful if you think that you never do anything right, or that you have a really low job performance, for example, to actually track your performance. So you can actually factually see, wow, I really am doing well in this category, and this category. And it's okay to see a category that you want to improve. That is human. You're not going to be perfect in every single thing, but if you can track your performance, you can begin to see, again, with more factually, like, where am I really kicking ass and where do I need to improve? So another thing that can be really helpful, and this is true about anything that you're struggling with, but keeping it to imposter syndrome, is talk to a mentor or a manager about this. Imposter syndrome often comes with a lot of feelings of shame, and being able to talk to someone will really neutralize this for you. You can get honest and objective feedback from a mentor or a manager around your performance, most likely hear that you're doing much better than you think that you are. And again, with that feedback, it'll provide more feelings of security and safety for you, decrease the shame, and help you to feel better. So sharing how you feel with someone can be incredibly healing and helpful. Next, say yes to new opportunities. Stop limiting yourself. Stop saying no because you're scared. Practice. You don't have to say yes to every single opportunity, but when one comes in, really look at it. And is it valuable? Is it something that there's parts of you that say, yes, I really want to try, but, well, when that but comes up, what I want you to do is just choose one opportunity that comes your way. You don't have to choose all of them. That's too much. That's too scary. But choose one that comes your way and go for it. The only way we change is by experiencing ourselves better. Like better in a way of trying things. And the only way that you can have this experience is that if you actually do it. So if you continue to say no to growth and success and opportunities, you're going to stay small. You have to begin to get out of that restricted space. So begin practicing even little bits at a time of saying yes to opportunities. I want you to begin to learn how to work with the cognitive distortions in your head. So the things that you hear, I'm not good enough. I'm going to make a fool of myself. They're going to laugh at me. I'm going to be found out. Those are cognitive distortions. And when you begin to hear these things in your mind, kind of like the internal critic, but a little different, I want you to begin to recognize that's a cognitive distortion. That's a cognitive distortion. When we can begin to recognize our cognitive distortions, we can begin to realize that they aren't true. You can actually take one of those distortions, write it down on a paper, and ask yourself, how factual is this? And in 9 times out of 10, it's not factual at all. Or if something like this has happened, it's happened once in your life or twice, not every day. So you can begin to look at these things that are so scary, these thoughts in your head, put them on paper, look at them, and then don't let them run your life, because you see that there's tons of loopholes in those things. They don't have to be in charge. And finally, I want you to begin to reward yourself. And that might sound a little weird, but the thing is that people with imposter syndrome constantly, kind of like the praise I was talking about, are constantly downplaying their talents, their strengths, things that they do exceptionally well. And I'm not saying that you have to be arrogant or talk about yourself all the time, but I want you to begin, when you do a really good job and you begin to have a better understanding of, yes, I really showed up, and you're working with the cognitive distortions and you're doing all of these things, I want you to recognize that achievement. I want you to recognize that success, and don't just blow it off and go on to the next thing. I want you to do something nice for yourself. I want you to recognize this. And truly, imposter syndrome is something that you can radically reduce. Now, you might feel it again if you have a job transition or a promotion or something like that. But if you can learn the keys with working with this, you can begin to work with it no matter where it crops up in your life. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Please let me know what your thoughts are. Even if you want to go for a week and try this and come back and report, I would love to hear this from you. And hopefully this has been helpful. All right, I'll talk to you soon.